Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening wherever you get your podcast. Rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars, I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. It is Foxworth Friday. There's Domonique Foxworth, the hostage over there, looking like he's about to be like, everything is okay. I'm just fine. They're treating me very well at the right time.
If I blink 3 times, I'll let you guys know. Just people know this is on YouTube, that they can come and see this embarrassingly barren basement studio I got popping.
Yo, that's actually a thing I didn't realize. I don't know. There's probably some people who do listen who don't realize. You can check the show out on YouTube now. We get the episodes up the day of posting on the podcast. So if you want to see what we look like, see my little background I set up, I put some work into this. I got a Edrin James bobblehead behind me. If you look up there, that one is a little colorful. You can't tell, but it's a rubber duck that looked like David Bowie from the Ziggy era.
And you're not even going to reference that trophy? Just keep it moving?
I mean, Emmy. Emmy right there. Emmy right there. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Nobody wants to talk about my Route 100 up there. Y'all all want to talk about Emmy. All right, it's all good, though. You, as former player, what did you think of Aaron Rodgers keeping it all the way real press conference on Wednesday?
I'm always a fan when people talk, they talk. And that's essentially what Aaron was doing as politely as possible. He was going at people's necks. The funny part is, to me, it doesn't matter whether he's even right or wrong. Because, I think some of the moves that they made, you could argue were the right moves. Like when he was going down his list of players that I guess they either shouldn't have gotten rid of or should have gotten rid of more politely. I started to look back at those decisions, and then I caught myself and was like, why? That's not the point. The point is respect. That's what he is here talking about. And sometimes people hold out because they want more money, not because they need the more money. It's because of respect. If you played in the league long enough, you got plenty of money, and you see somebody else get more than you don't need that extra $2 million, but you want that extra $2 million because it shows everyone else in the league that your team, your organization respects you. And that's what Aaron Rodgers is talking about. He didn't do it with money, but he's like, when I got here, when y'all drafted me, Brian Gutekunst was a scout. That's the bottom. That is the bottom of the organization. When we won a Super Bowl, Brian Gutekunst, scout. I was winning MVP. So how dare you? When we are making decisions about free agents, they not coming here for the beaches. They not coming here for you. They not coming here for no other reason. Let's cut to it. It's me. And it's all true. And that's all he wants is y'all to call him and say, what you think about this, Aaron? That's it.
Yeah. I thought that he was remarkably respectful, right? I thought he was honest, but I didn't think that anybody, now of course people always find a way, but I didn't hear him and feel like anybody who's associated with the Packers should have walked out of there heated, right?
Right.
I think that given everything that happened in the offseason, he couldn't get away with doing a press conference where he wasn't at the very least honest, right? Even if he was honest and not in a way that had us ready to drop flex bombs and everything else, he had to come and give a clear appraisal of why it is that things went the way this offseason, the way they did, because he really hadn't said very much. And he went up there and he did it. And I think that while being honest, it was just very clearly demonstrated. We got this 1 year. We going to get this thing right? And then they went and did something they wanted him to do. They went and got Randall Cobb. But I'm like, damn, dog, you should have asked for more. You went and got your homeboy that ain't good no more.
That was just about flexing. Just about flexing. He was like, I'm going to show y'all what I can do. Or I'm going to test y'all. See how serious you are about letting me have some say. Get my homeboy out here. Can you imagine the type of, Randall Cobb got that my daddy the coach energy right now. He can't do nothing wrong, right? They better not talk funny to Randall Cobb.
Yeah, I was just wondering, what would it take for Randall Cobb to get cut at this point? How slow would Randall Cobb have to be? How many passes would Randall Cobb have to drop?
Well, I mean, he'd have to have Aaron turn on him because he's safe as long as Aaron's got him. It's like how Giannis' brother is on the Bucks.
Yes.
Giannis' brother can show up to the Bucks in whatever type of condition he want to show up in, and he can yell at the coach. They're not gonna move on from Giannis' brother because they don't want to upset Giannis. That's the place that Randall Cobb is in right now.
But is Aaron Rodgers going to have the talk that it feels like Giannis has had with his brother and be like, yo, man, ain't no slipping here? Because say what you want about Giannis' brother, he be out there playing hard.
I'm saying he could do those things. But
yeah, you're right. But Giannis is like, look, man, we done come too far. We don't come too far. Right? And I feel like all these other of the Giannis brothers, all of them have got all because it's like, dang, maybe they'll one day turn into something once we get them like 3 squares. That's all it's going to take. Giannis' brother be out there. He got a crazy high foul rate. They be putting him in there at the end of quarters. He's a full-on energy because that is 4 dudes who ain't going back to Greece. How can they go back to Greece? They ain't even got passports.
That's what I was gonna say. It's like, I don't know if Giannis had to talk with him or that's just how they built. Like, if you read anything about how they grew up, we talk about guys who can't go back. They really can't go back. That's that level of poverty and struggle that we have not experienced. But that's still, I talked about Randall Cobb having that coach's son's energy where he can just kind of relax. But there's some teams I've been on where the coach's son, clearly the coach had a talk with him before he got out there and was like, look, or he knows that the punishments can be a little harder on him than everyone else because they come with that extra energy because they know that coach can do more than make me run some suicides when I get home.
Yes. Now, you talk about Giannis who can't go back. The worst thing for them, it wasn't just that it's like we can't go back. They could barely leave. Like, the wildest thing in the world to me was that them boys did not have passports because they were not of Greek ancestry. They were literally men without countries. Literally men without countries.
They gave Giannis a passport as soon as his name got big, right? Wasn't that what happened?
Yeah. Once he got drafted, they were like, oh, okay, we could work something out. The irony of it is, and I guess this is why they be like that toward us in some of these places, I feel like the rest of Europe treat them like they the black people of Europe, right? Like, one thing people don't understand is like the sliding scale of what it is to be European. Like, so for example, in Western Europe, you'll hear people who have the line, Africa starts at the Pyrenees. Like, that's how they look at the Spanish and the Portuguese, that once you get south of the Pyrenees Mountains at the border of France and Spain, now you start getting to Africa. But with Greece, it go to a whole nother level because remember, they was just broke. You know what I'm saying? They had no money. Yeah, it was out here like, yo, man, you a little money.
So the rest of Europe looks at them and treats the whole country of Greece like they would black people. And then to be a black person in that country like that, you better be able to dunk out the gym.
The stories we hear about how Giannis and his brothers had to hustle in Greece, that's how Greece was trying to hustle like 6-7 years ago. Right? Like, yo, anybody want to buy something? Yo, man, we try to keep the lights on, baby. Anybody got a little something? I'm very poor. I need a little assistance to help the fam out. Anybody got anything for us?
I never understood because, like, whenever you read about, like, James Baldwin, or, I mean, lots of great black artists from, like, back in the day, they go to Europe, go to France, and go to something, and they would go somewhere over there, and they would say that it was like a better experience. I never understood that because, and I've never spent that much time in Europe. I was born in England. I don't have any memories of it. But whenever I watch like soccer games, like they don't like us over there neither. So I never understood. You might be the person to talk to about this.
I understood it when I went to France for the first time. Went to Paris in 2016 for a work assignment. And I felt like they would treat me like I was an American, as opposed to treat me like I was a black person. But one of my followers, Jim Jensen, he made a very good point. He said he listened to something on NPR, and I think it was an American professor who had gone to France who had that same experience of feeling like, because they don't have the legacy of chattel slavery. Right. You know, that's the thing. They got a whole colonization situation that's all messed up. But the chattel slavery thing is not there, so it's a different ball game. But what the woman said was, it was all fun and games until her French got good. Yeah. And when her French got good, they no longer identified her as an American, and they were thinking that she was from one of the colonies.
Right.
And then you got into the realm of the hierarchy.
Gotcha.
And everything else.
It reminds me of like when I was a young player and I would walk into like a car dealership and the people would like treat me kind of poorly until the one young guy would come in and recognize me. That is probably the same thing as when you're in France where they like, all right, he's from one of those African countries. And then you speak up with an American accent. They're like, oh, he's one of them we got to respect.
Yes. That's the whole reason I bought that damn Rolex. Just for rooms like those, just to be like, hey, guys, like, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here.
That's the whole reason I went to business school.
Yeah, right, exactly, right. Like you notice how it is even ostentatious. I'm not really trying to stun on y'all. I just want to make sure y'all know I paid the cover charge to get a certain measure of respect. Let me tell you, this is a story I would tell you though about when I got that Rolex, right? Like just so people understand. Now, granted, for those of y'all who know me, y'all know me. For those of y'all who don't, I was in there like I'd be in there. Like I was just out. It was on New Year's Eve, 2016. I had just come got a nice little check for something. And I was wearing a Funkadelic t-shirt and some hooping shorts. And I walked into the Rolex store at the Design District in Miami. And there was this dude standing next to this woman. And the dude hit her with the nudge, like, oh, you got this one, right? And I'm like,
oh, God.
All right, homie. And so I started talking to the woman. She was very nice. And I will never forget this because I saw the first watch I really liked. I was like, oh, tell me about this. And she's like, oh, yes, this is very nice. It only comes in the platinum. I was like, oh, okay. And I said, and how much does it cost? She's like, and this is $85,000. And I was like, okay, so how do I move off this as quickly as possible without giving them the signal that I'm like broke boy, right? And so anyway, I wound up getting a watch. And the Rolex store, they so into themselves that when you buy a watch, everybody tells you congratulations, and they bring you out a glass of champagne. Congratulations. But the first person to tell me congratulations was that old salty ass dude who didn't want to help me at first. He didn't get that commission. He's like, congratulations. Homie, it could have been you. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you need to watch more sports television so you recognize the star when he walk up in the spot. Because if I'd have walked in there looking like one of them rappers, he would have all of a sudden jumped up. He'd have had something. But, you know, it's sometimes difficult to identify and explain to people that I belong in this room.
Yeah. I mean, you're right about that. The one thing that I experience in those places that like my wife doesn't experience is like the insecurity where I feel like I don't belong in those places, frankly, because like I'm new money. I got money a few years ago, so like I didn't grow up in these places. I'm not comfortable in these stores, and so like that feeling that you had when they showed you the $85,000 watch, and you like, I'm not getting that, but also like I'm not gonna be like, like I have that feeling still to this day where like I could afford something like that. I'm certainly not gonna buy something like that, but I'm not gonna let you know. And the funny thing is like when my wife does a lot of like shopping and stuff, and like I don't like returning stuff either, because whether it's because it fit or not, especially to like these nice stores, because it just feels to me like, I guess it's just exposing that like I know I don't belong. My wife will go into these stores, spends thousands of dollars, sometimes keep it all, and then sometimes go back the next day and give it all back and be completely comfortable with it. And like she grew up in a place where she was going to these type of stores and she was comfortable in that. Like I don't know. I'll never be completely comfortable when I go to any type of these high-end places or fancy restaurants where it's a market price and you like not supposed to ask the price. No, I'm asking. Y'all gonna tell me what the price is. I'm gonna be slightly embarrassed, but y'all gonna tell me what the price is. And that nonsense about if you gotta ask, you can't afford it. No, I'm not signing up for nothing I don't know what's on the other end of.
See, I don't belong in any room, therefore I'm comfortable in all of them.
Oh.
Like that's the thing. Like growing up like I grew up, I'm in between worlds in just about every room that I wind up in. I figured that out a long time ago. So I don't belong in none of them, so I'm good in any of them, because otherwise I'd just be walking around shaking all the time. Yeah. Like that ain't it. And see, you know, it's actually funny because it ties back to Aaron Rodgers in a bit, because Aaron Rodgers strikes me a lot as that kind of dude. He's from like Chico, California, somewhere like that. You know, like he a regular dude by and large who got family problems that we all know about, you know, like all these things. He ain't that tall, you know what I'm saying? Like he ain't short, but he ain't that tall. He just like Mr. Regular Dude. And I think part of what caught up to him with Green Bay, I think he looked around at, and this is something I can certainly relate to. He been too cool about stuff for too long, right? And like you want to be the guy that's like, look, you ain't got to do all this. You ain't got to do all that. They're like, cool, we don't. And then they start treating you just like you everybody else, even though it's clear that you are not like everybody else. Like I loved him. The thing you pointed out that I loved the most was when he was like, they coming here to play with me. And that's the truth. And he didn't even sound like a jerk in saying it. He's just being like, what do y'all have here that's so attractive to free agents if it ain't me?
Nothing. Not a darn thing. Money, that's it. So like you're right about all of that. And I think the idea about feeling comfortable in different places, I think that it's slightly different for Aaron Rodgers, because like I have this experience also. Like there are places where I feel like I don't belong, but I don't feel uncomfortable, because for whatever reason, like I feel like I hate to say it this way, but like I feel accomplished enough amongst these people that I know that even though this is not where I belong, like Aaron Rodgers probably feels like he's not like the rest of the players. Like he's slightly above them. And like there are rooms that I go in where I feel like that. And there are other rooms where I go in and I'm like, I don't feel like I'm beneath them, but I feel like they think I'm beneath them. And that makes me uncomfortable. Aaron Rodgers made it quite clear that everybody in the entire state of Wisconsin is beneath him. And he knows it. He's been pretending like he didn't know it because y'all like humility, blah, 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 blah. I'm sick of this. I'm going to show up in my dingy t-shirt with my crazy sunglasses on, and I'm going to tell y'all who's selling them tickets. They coming to see me. They ain't coming to see you, Otis.
Yes. Even my favorite one. Whose name is that up there on the marquee? It don't say Shadow on the marquee. BLEE to the K. Right? My name is the one that is on this marquee. And now they going to have this awkward ass season up there. Right? Like it's if they get out here and start rolling, nothing else matters. They come out here and go 1-3. Oh, baby, we got an issue. And Jordan Love over there in the corner like, man, please don't look at me. I don't really have anything to do with this whatsoever. Why couldn't they draft some white dude to come be the one that's going to take all them blows after Aaron Rodgers leave? It's hard enough as is. The Green Bay Packers have never started a black quarterback on purpose. Like, to me, that's an important distinction when you start talking about franchise and having black starting quarterbacks. Did you do it on purpose? Like, did you walk in and say, we want this guy? Like Seneca Wallace started a couple of games. Brett Hundley started a couple of games. That wasn't on purpose. You feel what I'm saying? Like that to me, that's an important distinction. Like Dak Prescott, it wasn't on purpose at first. Then it became on purpose. Okay, cool. But the Packers, they all, and that list, by the way, for those of you who don't know, longer than you think of these teams that have never started a black quarterback on purpose.
They went and drafted him first round.
They did. Right. But at some point, they did plan to put him out there on purpose. I'm just saying it ain't never happened before. Yeah, they ain't never asked nobody to be like, yo, this is the future. They've been like, look, it's only going to be a couple weeks.
Yeah, I think because we think of like these colleges and stuff as very regional, and we think of NFL teams as corporate, and they're all part of the NFL organization, which is true. They're more corporate than these college teams, but I think that the region has impact. Like Lamar Jackson fits in Baltimore. Like that is something that is much easier to sell in Baltimore than, I mean, name any city you want, but there are a lot of other. Yeah, Green Bay. It's much easier to sell in Baltimore than Green Bay. Now, after you get out there, you start cooking, and I think that helped Lamar too, because let's not pretend like a lot of fans in Baltimore wouldn't have turned on Lamar if they switched from Flacco to Lamar and suddenly got worse. Like they switched and then made a run and got to the playoffs. And then he came back the next year and won the MVP. So that probably works just about anywhere. But I think that also the reason why Ozzie drafted him before he left, and the reason why they were considered doing all this, I think part of that was like, we're in Baltimore and we can handle this here in a way that other teams cannot.
Yo, speaking of Lamar, he now has COVID case number 2, and it has been reported that he was not vaccinated. And my guess is this. We saw guys who had COVID and then came back and didn't look the same. Cam Newton is a great example of that. We got other people we can point to. Lamar Jackson was not one of them. Like Lamar Jackson came back and still did Lamar Jackson things. And so I'm guessing he thought, all right, what's the worst that could happen? And now we got this thing again. And I'm just like, I'm looking at, you saw Ron Rivera the other day? That was just like, yo, I got cancer, man. What are you guys out here doing? And they're like, not getting vaccinated. What about you, coach?
Yeah. Was it Ward? I think it was
TJ Ward.
Yeah, TJ Ward who came in there with that. Yeah, we don't need to draw no attention to that, but it was disappointing. I think the whole team not getting vaccinated is disappointing too.
Yeah, and I think for Rivera, especially where he's a guy where his players generally like and him, respect him. You know, like he's that dude. And I think for him, it was almost like, yo, y'all can't just do this for me, right? Like, think about this. If Ron Rivera had leukemia and they had been like, yo, we having a bone marrow drive for Ron Rivera, every single one of them dudes would have shown up to get tested and all of that stuff. Ron Rivera's like, hey, man, I need y'all to, like, get vaccinated. It might help save my life. I ain't taking no microchip for you, or whatever the rationale is that people have. And I'm wondering what happens there like after the fact, because, yo, damn, dog, I'd be mad too.
Yeah. I mean, so if I'm Ron Rivera, maybe I'm not showing up to work because I care about my life more than I care about the Super Bowl. That's a whole nother conversation. However, the players being reluctant and outspoken about it has forced me to think about these people, not anti-vaxxers, but people who have not gotten vaccinated differently. Because prior to this, I can create a kind of a caricature in my mind of who these idiots are, and they're just largely like dumb and kind of goofy and anti-science. But these players are me, and so it reminds me that they have come to this place, at least it feels logical to them. So how do you get there is the tough part for me. So like I'm trying my best to be empathetic because like for the last several months I just been kind of judging people like you people who not getting vax, like you holding us back, you stupid, like this is science. We had vaccines for all these years. But like the hard thing I think is to find some empathy in there for them. I can't do it. I just can't. I'm trying, but I can't do it.
The only place I think I can go to on that is just young people do stupid things.
Right.
Like I think that because I think one thing, especially now, you're not here yet, but I'm in my early 40s now. I have to remember how stupid 22, 23 is, right? I mean, just for all of us and the risk that people at that age are willing to take and the invincibility that a lot of them have. And I guess that maybe that ultimately turns out to be a part of it. But I don't think you and I have talked about this, but Mike Golick Jr. made a great point about this. The ability to not get a vaccine, I said this on the podcast on Monday, that's a privileged position in the NFL because them cats on the back end of the roster, I mean, you don't have to, but we can go get another one of you. Like DeAndre Hopkins, they don't make him practice already. He can get out here and talk this noise if he won't.
Yeah, that's obvious. Yeah, that is, I mean, I think that's probably the same for a lot of people in America as we get closer to like having vaccine mandates is like the people who, I guess you either don't have a job and you don't have to get a vaccine for that purpose, or you have a job that is dealing with people and you're going to get vaccinated because your employer is going to make you, or you're high enough on in some organization where you sit at home on your computer and then you cannot get a vaccine. So that's, again, you have to have some level of privilege to not get a vaccine, probably, right?
Right. I tell you this, empathy or not, privilege or not, whatever it is. One thing I've learned throughout all this, whatever Facebook and Google do, everybody gonna ultimately do, right? Yeah. Like that's just kind of how this spins. Facebook and Google is like, all y'all got to get it now, which means everybody gonna be in a place where they're gonna be hitting y'all with everybody got to do it. It just never dawned on the power that once this vaccine became available, that people are gonna be like, nah, I'm good. They were like, yo, we gonna get this vaccine out. We gonna get hundreds of millions of doses out here, and we gonna be back on track. And people were like, actually, my track never stopped, dog. Right. I'll just keep on doing what I've been doing anyway, and that's where we are. But the mandates are going to wind up coming, and sometimes that happens in the name of the greater good.
Yeah, and I mean that honestly, like that, I understand being hesitant to do that because that can backfire, but we may not have much for it to backfire against if we don't do something, like that's the decision where you're making is like, all right, mandates gonna cause a problem. But I would love to get to that problem because we may not get to that problem if we don't get people vaxxed. But the point that I made on Monday's HQ about this conversation when we first got the rules about the NFL was that we talk about freedom like it's binary, like it's a switch. You're either free or you're not free. And I view it differently, where freedom is like on a continuum. And you trade, we do it all the time. We trade some of our freedoms for some security, like in some comfort. Like in order to live in a society, you are willing to, all of us, follow lots of rules that we don't like, we don't appreciate, including getting vaccinated. Like everybody in this country has had some vaccines at some point. And so like I would be willing, and that's where I would have some empathy, is like I'd be willing, if this was happening after 9/11 when the Patriot Act was coming around, if people was like, nah, we're not giving up any more of our freedom in exchange for maybe what you're saying is more safety. Like I'm on board with that because that is new. We're not asking people to like do something new. We asking you to do something that we've been doing for 100 years.
But actually, this is an interesting question I had not thought about. When the last time that a new shot hit the vaccine list? You know what I'm saying? Like it's been
true.
measles, mumps, rubella. You got to get a tetanus
Polio.
shot. Yeah. Like we've been rolling with the same bundle
That's
of
true.
vaccines for the longest.
The flu shot is new every year, but I guess it's still the flu shot.
Yeah. And the flu shot is like, I ain't gonna lie, I hadn't got no flu shot till this COVID came around, and I was like, "Look, I can't be playing games with nothing." I have been rolling the dice on the flu shot, and I say, if COVID did anything, I learned a lot about the flu. I did not realize that people are like, "Yo, the flu be killing people." You just saying that. Then they're like, "Yo, as many people die from the flu as die from COVID." I'm like, "Yo, the flu is gangster." My bad.
Yeah, I mean, it was always made so easy for me, even back in college. They like have somebody in the facility handing out flu shots, and then his name in the NFL. So I always got a flu shot, and then it became habit for me. Once I was out of the league, I was like, all right, let me go find this flu shot because that's what I do. I get the flu shot.
Yeah, that's me now.
Yeah,
I'm about to be on all of these, like every single one.
When is the last time? So like, the argument that I can understand is like. And this goes back to an ongoing theme that you and I have on Fridays is like people don't trust institutions. So like I understand not trusting the American government, fine, or I understand that as a general concept. But when is the last time, or what are people pointing to as an example of when the U.S. government just like wholesale tricked the entire country? I guess going into Iraq, was that
right. Like, well, when we talk about it, just a lie, right? Like that was
Yeah.
a series of lies in order to get some money. I have struggled on this one on what exactly do you think is getting gained by this con that you believe is being perpetrated. That's where I get lost, is I just can't do the 2 and 2 and get this right. Man, they try to track us, dog. It's a wrap on that. You don't see all these cameras everywhere you go.
It's a wrap. You got a phone, it's a wrap. They out here exposing priests. It's a wrap. They know everything about you already. They know where you at. They know what you doing. They know who you with.
Yep. Commercial support for The Right Time with Bomani Jones has been provided by BetterHelp Online Therapy. As we begin to see the light at the end of the COVID tunnel, a lot of people are still feeling down and emotionally out of sorts. You may not feel depressed or at a total loss, but if you're feeling a little bit off or your relationship's suffering, that could be a sign you should talk to somebody. Online therapy can help. BetterHelp is not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It's professional therapy done securely online. Fill out a questionnaire to help BetterHelp assess your needs and match you with your professional licensed therapist. Secure weekly video, phone, or even live chat appointments. Therapists have a broad range of expertise that may not be locally available in your area. Log into your account anytime to send a message to your therapist. BetterHelp is committed to great matches, so it's easy and free to change therapists if needed. It's more convenient and more affordable than in-person therapy, and financial aid is available. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/Bomani. That's betterhelp.com/Bomani. Gatorade knows there's no one path an athlete takes to unlock their true greatness. For DK Metcalf, greatness starts with an early morning grind, going hard when everybody else wants to quit. For world-breaking track star Sydney McLaughlin, it's all about setting a goal and working hard every day to shatter it. And for Jason Tatum, greatness starts with giving everything to live up to the legends that came before him. Whatever path you take to greatness, Gatorade is there to help you fuel it, because greatness starts with G. Switch gears just a little bit here. Michael Thomas just had the surgery kind of late in the offseason. Looked like he gonna miss some like actual time. And I was just reading about it, and it sounds like the plan was to play it conservatively, and then it didn't heal on the schedule they wanted, and so now he's had the surgery. But Sean Payton still sound a little bit heated on this one. And I do wonder for players like Shaq with the infamous line, "I got hurt on company time, I'll heal on company time." But that's basketball. You can come out here and charge up a couple of months out the regular season and then come back around. Like, how does this go for a team or for a roster? I'm talking about the players in particular, where you see a cat like that and you're like, dog, you couldn't have got this taken care of sooner?
Yeah, so it depends on his relationships. He's had a couple fights in there, so that may suggest that. And to be honest with you, fights don't mean that they don't get along. Sometimes it depends on where you're at. Some coaches, frankly, encourage fights and some don't. So maybe that's it. But that's what it comes down to is if you think about it, anybody, think about it in your own life, you know that your homeboys, your close people, they can get away with stuff with you because you trust them, you love them, you like them, you're rooting for them. People who you don't really mess with, once they do something wrong, you never go forget it. You go hang it over their head. So like, I'm not in that locker room. I don't know how they really feel about Michael Thomas, but we're gonna find out.
Well, I think that all the stuff that's happened in the world has allowed us to forget, hey, man, it's a pretty big change down there in New Orleans this year. They used to have this dude playing quarterback on his tippy toes who ain't going to be there no more. Now, I think Drew Brees was done, right? So I don't think, I also still have no idea. They're going to start your man. They're going to do that.
No. They're not going to start your man.
So they're going to start your man?
Oh,
like
yeah.
That's the thing. The Saints, depending on who you are, the Saints got a quarterback that you can refer to as someone's your man. Which one? Your man. Oh, okay. You talking about that? We gonna talk to somebody else. Someone's your man. Who? Your man. Oh, okay. Talking about two completely different people. And without saying a word, everybody knows.
I know. I can tell by the inflection. Yeah, I mean, they better start Jameis. Like I don't, because this is the way I look at it is Taysom Hill is going to require an unorthodox offense to succeed, which is fine. You better be incredible. And he is not. He's okay. But you cannot change everything up for somebody. Like, you do it so rarely. And then Lamar Jackson is obviously the obvious example where they are running an offense that no one else in the league is running. And it also happens to be like one of the most efficient offenses in the league. You know why? Nobody else can do that. Pick anybody else you want. Nobody else can do that. And that's the problem with Taysom Hill is the things that he can do, a lot of people can do. And I think calling him a Swiss Army knife is the perfect description. Because a Swiss Army knife can do a lot of things okay. But if you need a screwdriver, you're going to go get a screwdriver. If you need a knife, you're going to go get a real knife. You need some scissors. You want a corkscrew, you're going to go get the real thing. The only reason why a Swiss Army knife, you use these for these things is because, like, hey, yeah, he's an in a pinch type of guy, and that's how they use him. Do not make him the main dude.
Yeah, try to cut a steak with that Swiss Army knife, right? Because that's his big problem is he can't cut a steak. Like, when it's time to throw that thing down the field, man, that was what got me. When it was time to get that down the field, I just can't imagine. You got to get so open because it looked like, I've never done this on Madden, but I can give you an example from baseball video games. But you make like a position player the pitcher. Like that's what them throws look like throwing the eephus pitch. Wide receiver, like, can I get a fair catch on this one? Because otherwise I might die.
I ain't played Madden in so long. I see on ESPN they doing all these unveils of the top players, and it's been so long. The crazy part is I stopped playing when I got in the league because it was too complicated. Like I was a real football player, and I sat down to play Madden. I was like, this is too much.
I retired from Madden when the passing cone came around.
Oh yeah.
And I was just like, this is just too much. Like, and it was a great advent, right? It allowed you to legitimately like look off the defense and all of that stuff. Bro, I wasn't in it for that. Because I'm not a guy that's trying to play on all Madden, baby. I'm trying to go 16-0 on all pro. I'm here for fun. I'm not here for a challenge. Like, I was talking to our friend Mina Collins about the crossword puzzle, right? You know, she is a crossword puzzle monster. I ain't really so good when we get to the end of the week because I don't read fiction and like all that stuff you were supposed to read in school. I didn't read, and that's where a lot of that stuff comes from. I do Monday, Tuesday, maybe Wednesday if I'm feeling good because I'm not looking for a challenge. I'm not trying to prove anything. I'm just trying to pass some time and enjoy myself in the process. I like seeing if I can get done with the Monday joint in like 90 seconds. Like that's what I'm going for. Like I play Sudoku. I play it on medium on the computer. I'm trying to see if I can get this done in 2:30. Like I'm time trials. That's what I'm going for. I got nothing to prove to y'all. Nothing whatsoever. And Madden got to a point where it's like, yeah, I ain't got nothing to prove to you cats, man. I'm not doing this. Then you mess around. When you start, like when I started playing Madden against these dudes that was really putting their own men in motion and reading the defense and all this, I was like, nah, that's not what I'm in this for.
Yeah, doing all types of shifts to get glitches, to get pressure on people. Like
you sliding the protection. Why are you a video game player? You slide the protection. Why don't you work for a team?
I mean, it's I guess for young people, it's probably amazing because they grow up in that and like they understand all that. But for me, I I'm out on Madden. I remember playing Madden and being mad in college because like the coverages weren't precise enough. Whereas like they out here hitting flat routes against cover two and don't even have a vertical to stretch it. And I'm like, I can't play this. This man running outs on me. I call cover two and it don't stop it. I don't want to play this. Now it's gone the other way. Where it's like I gotta slide protections. I gotta check hot routing people. I can't passing cone. That's probably gone by now because I feel like nobody like that. But that's just too much. I want to have fun. I'm with
what
you.
the passing cone should have done for me though is it should have turned me to just playing for the Colts because Peyton Manning's passing cone was a zip code. He saw everything.
Yeah, I play FIFA with some of my friends now. It's pretty. I like it. There's a pass button. There's a shoot button. You can do a whole bunch of tricks, or you can choose not to. I choose not to. Be wrecking fools on FIFA too.
I never got into the FIFA. I was not around the people who were doing the FIFA thing. Like I see why people are really into it. I just never got to that place. And it's wild. Everybody got a game system in this day and age. Like back when I was a kid, like the idea you could just play online and play against your friends. The only way you could play against your friends back in the day was they had to come to your house, and not simply because of the limitations of the technology, but because that was the person that had the Super Nintendo,
exactly.
The Nintendo 64. Now everybody got one. How do y'all all have one, by the way? Them things are expensive, and the answer is because your daddy be playing PlayStation 2.
Exactly.
That's the biggest difference.
Exactly. That's how my kids got it because I got one. And so how do you? I guess you don't have kids, so you probably, I guess before COVID, you probably go out with your friends and hang out. Like that's the main reason why I have the Xboxes because like I talk to my friends. Otherwise, we don't see each other.
Well, hold on though. My friends are more adult than me. They have gone
That's
on
true.
to get married and do like adult type things. So now I just be at the crib doing other type things on the internet, I suppose. You know what I'm saying? Like, one thing about being 40 and single is that if you're not like out here in these streets on them, then there ain't that much recreation for you to do with your partners. Like my forever single friends are the ones that live all over the place. Like my closest friends in most stages are not married, but none of them like live in the place where I live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the friends of mine who have had some success and are still single, you're right. I text them like, "What's up, bro? Chilling. I'm in Tulum. I'm in Amsterdam. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Like we don't. You want to get on the Xbox? No, because they got more important things to do.
But see, I don't be doing that because my friends,
Yeah.
my friends ain't come up necessarily the same way, right?
Exactly.
Like I got a few that I could be like, yo, we can make this trip happen. We can make that trip happen. You know what I mean? But I can't just assume that we all gonna make the trip.
That's the I think we might have talked about this a long time ago, but I don't got no like lifelong friends, and I think it's because like the jump that I made from like my high school situation to like actually going to college and going to a pretty good college, I lost a couple there. And then the jump that I made from in college to like playing in the league and having some money, like I lost the rest of them there. And then like I started getting new friends at these new situations, but like again, my wife, like she got friends that she had since the 4th grade, and I'm jealous of that. Like how?
I got one of those. I got one friend that made it from high school because I moved. Like my parents moved away from Texas when I was out of there, and look, I knew when I got out of there. I knew what time it was, right? So I got really one friend that made it out of there. College is interesting because I got obviously a few that like came out of there, but I don't have like my crew from college is a bit disparate for a couple of reasons. Probably people dying and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But I don't have. I'm not in the group chat with them cats. Now what was interesting is when I went to grad school in Claremont, those relationships were lasting, and I'm still like pretty strong with a larger number of them because man, that was miserable. Like especially like the black folks in Claremont. Oh no, the bonds between them are completely different because it was all we got is us. It was the only means of survival, and that was how that was made to work. But I don't like the thing people don't understand about this ESPN thing. At least like the type of work that like me and you do, we don't be around people like that.
Yeah.
it's a little different because y'all got like the undefeated offices in DC, but like for me, I'm not around the folks like that. So like I got friends that I see when they pop into town, and it becomes interesting because I got the friends that pop into town, and then you wind up living in the same city as some of them, and you realize, we're not that cool. We thought we were, but not so much, you know? Like I always feel like you can break down your friends by days. Like I say, you got like 1 day friends, 2 day friends, 3 day friends, 4 day friends, 5 day friends, which is to say, if I'm in town for a day, am I going to see you? If I'm in town for 2 days, am I going to see you? Am I in town for 3 days? So forth and so on. But what you also wind up with is every quarter friends, every other month friends, whatever it is. Like, friends that live in different places and you see them like 3-4 times a year and that works, and then you move into the same city and you're like, but you know, now that I think about it, our friendship is really good for like 3-4 times a year.
Since I got away from football and like went on did some other things, like that's the thing that like I've been focused on more than anything is like you made some money, you had some success, build some relationships. I got one friend that I've known since middle school, and he and I were off and on for a little bit just because we were doing different things. But like he's a professor at Harvard now. Like he had plenty of success. He went to Oxford and he did all these other things. And like I think having like these unique careers and also like growing up in the same area like has made us so much closer now than we were back then. Because obviously I was a jock. We weren't tight. I just knew him. And he was like a nerd. And then we all went off into life and did all this other stuff. And then we came back and his dad did a bunch of time for selling drugs. One of his brothers still in jail for selling drugs. So you can imagine the type of friends he had growing up. He came back and was like, I don't got nothing in common with any of these people. And similar thing happened to me. It was just a different course. And like my parents weren't in nearly as tough situation. I wasn't in nearly as tough a situation. But then I came back and my homeboys like didn't graduate from college. Like, yeah, I'm trying to open a tattoo shop. It's like, I beat this case because it was a legal search. These are the conversations that I'm sitting in on. And I'm like, nah. So then he and I kind of connected because we was like, nah. But other than that, like I think about, it's like all my friends are new. I got a couple friends from college. I got like one homeboy from business school. And then like I'm closer than you would think with like a couple of people we work with here at ESPN, and that's about it.
But I can't lie, I came across you, I was like, dog, great to meet you. Like, oh man, I have sensed some commonality that is very important because some of these things we talk about is like, nah, this is kind of the same thing. Because one other interesting part of it, like with the corner of ESPN that we're in, I find that the biggest thing I gravitate toward is, oh, you went to public school.
Yeah.
Like, one of the more fascinating things about Mina Kimes is once I got to the bottom of it, realizes, oh, you went to public school. Now this all makes sense.
Yep.
Right? Because going to public school, you relate to a different set of people because it's like the people you're going to meet are from a broader range and everything else and stuff. Like to me, that is the clear line. When I used to work with Dan, I realized something very quickly that was different between me and Dan. I was like, oh, you went to private school. Got you. It wasn't about money because if I had to guess, my parents probably had more money coming up than his parents, when I was coming up than his parents did. Like he tells stories about like the car would hit the bump and the glove compartment would pop open and then you couldn't close it back. And I got no stories in that way. But he did not go to public school. Like he did not know the people that I knew and the range of experience. I'm like, oh wow, smart public school person. Need that, dog. Need that. The other folks don't get it.
You talked about how at grad school it was like a harrowing experience, and like they say that brings people closer together. Like you should take your first date, you should take somebody skydiving or something. Like they say stuff like that, and like that's what happened with me and Mina. Like the public school thing hit. Both our dads were in the military, so that hit, and we're around the same like age, so and we were into the same things, and then we tried to do a radio show together, and it was harrowing. And it felt like her and I was going through it together. And she is one of my closest friends in life because of all of those things now that like, and that's also a different, you talk about those day tests, like how many days are you in a city where you see somebody? What I find is like, who is my instinct to text or call when I got something? Like if it's something bad, if it's something good, if it's something funny, if it's something that comes across my table today, I pick up my phone and it's a reflex. It's not even like, who should I tell this to? I'm already forwarding, and you got one of my thoughts a couple days ago, where it's just a random thought.
Yep.
And that's how I know we tight.
Yo, I saw that and I was like, oh wow, Domonique really do rock with me. Because I was like, this is completely out of nowhere. I have no idea what the impetus for this was. Like, oh, that's right, this is friendship. That's how friendship works.
Oh man, we broken, but we trying to fix ourselves.
We working on it. Well, I thought it was interesting. I know we coming up on time. I say that to make sure Gabe knows I'm not gonna make his edit too difficult. But when you talk about John Harbaugh, like trying to ask you questions that relate to you, you're like, yo, why this white man all up in my business? Oh, he's trying to be my friend.
That was so weird for me. It was not just because of that, but like I was super focused at those times, so like I wasn't trying to make friends necessarily. And so it was weird to me. So when they first signed me, he brought me into his office and he was like, welcome. And he looked at my phone and it had the globe on it. And he used that as an entree to conversation. Like, oh, globe, you're a worldly guy, blah, blah, blah. So that's an interesting choice. And I was like, nah, that's just how the phone came. Like, we good here, coach? I was ready to leave, in part because I wasn't trying to make friends. And also because I wasn't used to it. Like, I was a star at Maryland. Then I was a third-round pick. Coach don't give a damn about your feelings for your third-round pick. This was the first time where I was going to be like a core guy. They were paying a lot of money. And he was like, I need to invest in this relationship because this guy is going to matter. And I was like, what you doing? You tell me where to be and when to be there. Like, we don't need a relationship. And once I finally figured it out, I tore my ACL and they was out getting new corners.
But dog, let me tell you something that's weird. And I ain't never been in a coach situation, but I have been in a situation where I was kind of at the front of the room, like somewhat of a team captain sort of thing. It don't feel good when you try to do all that outreach and somebody look back at you like, yeah, all right. I'm like, yo, no, we're trying to like establish, like, and then you get to a place of, you know, I ain't got to do this, right? Like you do understand that like other people in this situation wouldn't even be talking to your lowly ass. But here I am trying to get a bond with you, completely throwing out the window all the goodwill that I claim that I'm operating with because the ego has come back like, you do know I ain't got to do this.
That's why. So like when I was at the MBPA and I was like a manager, like I was in charge of a lot of people, like I don't like it. I don't want to be a manager because it's come to my attention, and this is sports, it's anywhere, that personal stuff matters a lot more. And this is probably one of the reasons that you and I have some issues with like the analytics crew is they undervalue because they can't measure how important that personal stuff is. And like I was a champion of Harbaugh when they were talking about firing him because of that. And I was thinking like, you can change schemes, but he really invests in relationships and that pays off in the long run. And so when I was like leading an organization or leading a segment of organization, like I found that I'd be stressed out because I knew how important those relationships were, but there were like meetings that I had to have or things that I had to like go meet with all the insurance companies to figure out like things that I had to do. But like, nah, let me spend 2 hours walking around the office, sitting at people's desks, asking about their lives. I don't really care, but like I know that I need their buy-in, and that is something like I'd rather be the guy who has somebody coming over to his desk than be the guy who has to go to the desk. Like that part of management is important, but it's exhausting.
And that is Domonique Foxworth. You got to come over there to his desk. Check him out, undefeated.com. Foxworth Fridays here on The Right Time. A pleasure as always, my brother.
Oh yeah, it's another good one. We need to have a bad show pretty soon before we end up like the NBA or like the USA basketball team where people don't appreciate a good show. They just come to expect it. So we're going to mail it in one of these weeks.
Yeah, one day. And ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us here on The Right Time. We do this 3 times a week. Gabe Bassane and Dave Presley handling everything behind the scenes. Thank you, gentlemen. Remember, follow The Right Time. Rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars. I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. And we'll talk to you guys in a couple of days. Take it easy.